So today, by request, I'm going to show you the basics of how to use Elementor. This video is going to be sticking to the basics. So we're not going to be using the containers function that's built into Elementor in this tutorial. That has to be in a separate tutorial and not in the basics because that confuses even professional developers. So we're just going to stick to normal rows and sections within this tutorial, and I'm just going to be showing you like how to add pictures, headings, text, that sort of thing. Maybe add in some little bit of effects, showing how to use add-on plugins. So without further ado, let's get started. So here in the back end of our WordPress website, the first thing we have to do is install Elementor. So to do that, we're going to go to plugins and we're going to say add new. In the add plugin screen, on the top right, it says search plugins. Here, we're going to type out the name Elementor. In the search results, you can see the very first one is the Elementor website builder. Now we're going to click on install now. Once it's installed, we're going to activate it. Okay, so now that Elementor has been installed and activated, now we can focus on building our page. Sometimes, depending on the install, you'll have a pop-up that'll guide you through a setup wizard. It's a very simple one that asks you to register and log in with an account. It is for free, and it gives you one or two other options that you don't actually have to worry about. I generally just skip it. I don't even worry about the wizard because I like to be in control from the back end of WordPress. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go and create a page that we're going to be using the Elementor website builder on. So let's go to pages and we're going to say add new. Here I'm just going to press X. This is the welcome to the block editor, and I'm going to give this page a title. I'm going to say this is home, and I'm going to publish it. This is just what I do. You can just start using Elementor like this, but I like to have my pages published before I carry on, because just in case something happens to my connection to the website while I'm building it, at least all the different steps that I have done until that point have already been saved on the website. So here I'm just going to click publish. Once it's published, then I'm going to say edit with Elementor, and now it's going to load up the page builder. And the very first pop-up that does show it is what's new with Elementor. Right now, while I'm recording this is showing me everything that's got to do with the AI image generator. I'm not interested in this tutorial. All I'm going to do is going to press X. You can always go back to that sort of stuff at a later date. Another thing here that's very important on the next pop-up is the one that says Flexbox container. This I am not going to activate in this tutorial. I'm keeping everything simple. Again, containers is more of an intermediate, more advanced sort of thing, and you don't need to use it in creating your pages. You can get by just fine in whatever design you want in the standard way of building a website. So here I'm just going to press X, and here is the blank canvas that we're going to be using to build our page. Now in this page, I'm going to have three different sections. I'm going to have the hero, I'm going to have just a write-up section, and I'm going to have a more contact us advanced section at the bottom. Now before we start, you can see that on the left side is a whole bunch of different widgets that you have available that you can use. In this tutorial, we're sticking with the free version of Elementor, so you don't have to worry about this pro stuff. All these pro things are locked in the free anyways, so they're just showing you what they have available if you had to upgrade to the pro. Everything you're going to need to edit different widgets is also going to be found here in this section as well. So this is a very integral part of how you design your website. So the first thing we're going to do now is we're going to add a section, and a section holds all the different widgets within it. And it's useful because then you can have different sections with different colors or images in the background, and you can keep everything nicely separated and to give it a whole nice professional look. So let's start by adding our first section. Here I'm going to click on this plus sign. I'm going to click on it, and it gives you all these different options of what types of sections that you want. None of this is set in stone. You can add more columns as you go along in your design, so you can always start off with one and you can add an extra column by yourself. In this tutorial, I'm going to do just that. I'm going to add a section here now. Then you can see when I added the section, the left side panel changed, and it gave all these different settings that you can choose for this section. So here you can see in the layout, different settings. In the style tab, you have all the different styling that you can customize the look of your section. And advanced, you can choose different things like play around with margins, add motion effects into your website, or you can even choose to hide sections in different viewports. All widgets will have a style in advanced unless it's a custom built plugin from somewhere else. So in this section of mine, I'm going to add a gradient color to the background. So to do that, I make sure that I've selected it, and I selected it on the 6 dot icon over there. I'm going to go to style, and you can see here in the background, we have a classic style, which is just one color, a gradient, video, or a slideshow. I'm going to click on gradient. I'm going to select my color, and then I'm going to select my second color, make it a little bit more darker. And that's the style of this section that I'm going to be going with. So now I'm going to start adding widgets to the section. I want 2 space widgets just to space everything in the middle away from the top and the bottom. So to do that, I go into this 9 dot icon. I'm going to look for spacer. I'm going to take that, drag it till it highlights that it wants to go into that section, and then let go. Now I have a space widget in place, and I can say how much space I actually want within this widget itself. Here I'm just going to say 100 pixels, and then I'm going to right click on this, and I'm going to say duplicate. So now I have two widgets with the identical settings. So in the middle of these two space widgets, I'm going to add a second section with two columns. Now I want a second section because I want to keep the space on the top and the bottom of this main section. So I'm going to click on this 9 dot icon, and the very first widget is the inner section. So I'm going to drag that until it's in the middle of the two space widgets, and then I'm going to let go. Now I've got two columns here. On the left hand side, I'm going to add an image, and on the right, I'm going to add a heading and text. So I'm going to click on the 9 dot icon. I'm going to look for an image. I'm going to click and drag to the left and let go. Here it gives me all the different settings for this image widget. I'm going to click on this button here that says choose image. And that opens up the media library. Now you can upload or select from your media library from what's there already. But in this tutorial right now, I'm going to add my image. So once I've found my image, I'm going to click and drag it to this window. I'm going to let go, and it'll automatically upload for me. Here I've selected it, and then I'll say select. And there's my image in place where I wanted it within the inner section. So next I'm going to add the title and text next to it in the second column. So to do that, I'm going to click on the 9 dot icon. I'm going to say this heading, I'm going to drag that across to the next section, let go. And then I'm going to click on the 9 dot icon again. I'm going to take the text widget, drag it across, make sure that it's underneath the heading, and let go. So now I have these two widgets, and as you can see, as I'm clicking them, all the settings on the left hand side is changing to reflect for that widget. First thing I'm going to do over here is before I add the content of the heading and the text, I want to put these two widgets in the middle of this image to give more balance. To do that, I click on the 6 dot icon, which is the same looking one as the main section here. I've clicked on it. I'm going to look down for vertically aligned, and I'm going to say that in the middle. So now these text widgets are in the middle of this image widget. So let me add my heading and my text now. To add your heading, make sure you've selected the heading widget, and then on the left hand side, you can see that's the text area where you put your heading in. Here I'm going to put in the heading. It's going to be the name of the bike, and you have different options to select what URL you want to go. You want to change the styling of it. You can change fonts and all that sort of thing here as well. You can also change your alignment, so you can have it in the center of that column, on the right justified, or on the left. For this demonstration, I'm just going to keep it on the left. The next thing I'm going to do to this is I'm going to go to style, and I want to change the text color to white. I'm not happy with the size of it. So what I'm going to do is under typography, I'm going to click on this pencil, and here I have the option to change the size. I can use the slider, or I can just add pixel size manually. Here I'm going to set it as at 45. I have the different options to do uppercase styling. You can even change the actual font if you want to. It's all up to you. Once I'm happy with that, I can go down to the next stuff. If I wanted to add a text shadow, I can do that here. I can actually put, say, the blur 5, make it a little bit darker, offset it vertically so it has a little bit of a standout effect. For here, I'm just going to say no. Now that I'm happy with this heading, now I'm going to add the context to my text widget. Again, like the heading widget, you have an area to put your content. So here I'm going to make sure that I've selected the text widget, and you can see that here's a text area that I can put in all my content that will reflect over here on the right hand side. You do have the option in Elementor that you can actually just click on the right hand side, and you'll see the cursor start blinking, and you can actually edit from there, but I like to stick everything on the left hand side just to keep everything uniform, because sometimes it's not perfect when you do that. Here's my text that I want for this section. I'm going to go into style, and I'm going to change the text color to white. Here you also have the options to change the alignment and the typography. I'm actually happy with the way it looks, so I'm going to keep all that as is. Okay, so now I have everything that I want for the section. What if I want to make this full screen? Let me close this navigator. If you want to get back to the navigator, just by the way, you can just go to the bottom left over here, and you can just click navigate, and it'll pop up again. What if I wanted to make this full width? That's not a problem. So all I do is I go to this main section, I click on the 6 dots, I go to layout, and you can see the content width is box. I can say this is full width. Now you can see that that has aligned everything to a full width. And I'm going to do the same thing for the inner section. I'm going to say that's full width. So now it is full width of its container that is the main section. Let's take the section one step further. So here I'm going to click on this image. In the settings, I'm going to go to advanced, motion effects. I'm going to say the entrance is to fade in left. So when this page loads and it gets to this area, that image will fade in left. I'm going to click on the title. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to say advanced, say motion effects, and in this one, I'm going to say fade in. And then with the text, I click on that, advanced, motion effects, I'm going to say zoom in. You have different effects, so play around with them and see what you like. Okay, so now that we have everything done in our section, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say update just to save my progress. Again, I don't want to be repeating steps in case I lose connection to the website. Now that it's updated and saved what we've done, I'm going to add a new section here underneath this first one that we've just completed. Again, we're going to do the same thing as we did in the first section. We're going to go onto this plus sign. We're going to click on it. I'm going to say I'm going to add a section. Here, I'm going to start off with making it full width, and I'm going to be keeping this section white. Again, I want to add some space over here before I put in my text. So I am going to be using the space widgets, and I'm going to be using the inner section here as well. I'm going to add in my space widgets now. Now I have the option of going into 9-dot icon and taking those, or I can just hover over an old one that I have that I like the settings of, and I can right click and duplicate. That I can drag over to the new section and let go. So now I have a copy of the old one with the same settings, and then I can copy this one again to give one for the bottom of the section. Now I can go into the 9-dot icon again, drag an inner section, put it in between these two widgets, let go. And now I have my inner section with the outer section holding the spacing around it. Here in this inner section, I'm also going to have an image, a heading, and text. But I'm going to have them in the opposite sides of the first initial section. So I'm going to click on the 9-dot icon. I'm going to take an image widget. I'm going to drag it across, and I can let go in this side. I do have the option of using the old widget as well. I can just right click, duplicate. I can take that one and then just let go into this section here, and I'll copy that as well if you want to do that sort of thing. If you want to remove a widget, just right click on it and say delete, and it'll remove the widget. Now in order to get to the settings of this image, again I'm going to click on it. The settings appear on the left hand side. I'm going to choose an image and I'm going to upload one now. So now that I've uploaded my image, I'm going to make sure that it's selected, and then I'm going to say select. So now I'm going to go and add a heading to this section. I'm going to click on the heading, I'm going to drag it across, and then I'm going to click on the 9-dot icon again and bring in my text widget. Once it's showing me the right location, I can let go. To add the content of my heading, I'm going to click on my heading. I'm going to go into the title area here, and then I'm going to add in my content. Because now I'm not happy with the color of this heading. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to style. I'm going to see the text color. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to choose the color that I want. Now I want this all capital, so I want text transform to uppercase. So what I do there is I go to typography, I click on the pencil, I look at transform, and then I say uppercase. You can choose other different options, but in this situation, I want uppercase. I also want the weight to be thinner. So I'm going to click on the thinner weight, the understanding one that was given to me. Now that I'm happy with this, I am happy with the size, so I'm just going to keep it as is. Then I can move on to the text widget. So now I click on the text widget, and again you can see all the settings on the left hand side. So now I'm going to put in my text that I want for this section. Now that I have all the content for this section and I am happy with it, again I do want this text to be in the middle of this image. It's just the design preference of mine. You don't have to do it if you don't want to, but in this tutorial it's good to show the different options of how to do it if you'd want to. So here I'm going to click on the 6-dot icon of this inner section. I'm going to go to the left hand side and I'm going to say vertically align into the middle. Now it's all centered for this section. So as you can see, it's not very hard to add the widgets to the builder. And then once the widget's in place, you just play with the settings and stylize the way that you want the thing to look like. But now let's take it one step further. So let's say, as an example, I want to use a form that I created in Gravity Forms and use that inside Elementor. Now Gravity Forms obviously does use shortcodes, and you can use shortcodes, and there's a widget in Elementor where you just paste the shortcode and it takes care of everything for you. But I want to have settings that I can play with instead of just a widget inside Elementor. I want to stylize it without actually using code. So to do something like that, we need the help of third-party plugins. Third-party plugins are great for that sort of stuff because they can help you add that functionality, and they're also great at enhancing Elementor with other widgets that they have built in within themselves. Now, as an example of what I mean, let's say you use the heading widget. Now it has all its settings. What if you wanted something a little bit more animated? What if you wanted a dual style type of heading? Well, Elementor doesn't have that, but third-party ones do. So it's great to have a look at those to enhance the styles that you want. Now there's a whole bunch of different third-party ones. There's ones like Elements Kit, Ultimate Add-ons, a whole bunch. So for this example, the one I'm going to be using is PowerPack Pro for Elementor. Now I'm not endorsed or sponsored or anything by any of these companies. I just like to use it personally, and that can change in the future. So let's go back into our website. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually add the PowerPack Pro. Then you'll be able to see that I'll have extra widgets that I can play with. Okay, so now just have a look on this left-hand side. If you scroll down, you can see all the widgets that are available to you. Obviously, these Pro ones are here just for show, just to make you want to buy Elementor Pro. So you can't actually use these ones, as you can see that they're locked. But if you scroll down, you can see that there's other ones like Image Box, Icon Box, which is one that we're going to be using in the next section. And there's a whole bunch of different ones that you can choose from. When you add an external plugin like PowerPack Pro, their widgets are going to appear here underneath all these others. Okay, so now I've activated the plugin, and now I've refreshed this page as well. So now you can see the updated version of Elementor's page builder. So now you can see that the basics and the Pro are still there. And if I scroll down to the bottom, you can see now at the bottom, here is the Power Pack elements from Power Pack Pro. There's really cool ones over here, like say business hours and that normal Elementor just doesn't have. So for this section, what we're going to do is we're going to be adding the one for gravity forms. Again, why I'm using it is so that I don't have to actually put in the CSS. I can just use settings here on the left hand side and it'll update all the styling for me. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a new section, and in this section we're going to have 2 columns. Right? Now you can see that now I didn't use an inner section. I don't want to have spacing. But here's another trick that I'd like to show you. I want this section to look like the first section in all its colors and settings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up into this first section where the bike is. I'm going to click on the main section where I put in all that color. I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to say copy. Now if I scroll down into the section that we're going to work with over here and I right click and I say paste style, you can see it took over that whole color settings from the first one and it put it over here, saving a lot of time and making sure that the colors stay exactly the same. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the gravity forms widget. So on the top widget search, I'm going to say gravity, and you can see the gravity forms widget from Power Pack Pro. I'm going to take this widget, I'm going to drag it over until it's in the right spot. I'm going to let go. And here is the new settings for this widget. I'm going to select the form that I actually created, and it's the contact form that I want to use. I'm going to hide the title and description and the labels because I don't like that in my styles. I'm going to make sure that Ajax is enabled for this gravity form. I'm going to go over to style, and I can stylize gravity forms from here without using that CSS code. I'm going to go into the field settings. I'm going to say the background color, I want to make sure it's white. I'm going to go down to the border. I'm going to say it's solid 1, and I want the border radius of 5. I'm going to make sure that the color of that is white as well. So you can see all these settings that you have available to customize look and feel of your widget. So now I'm going to go over to the submit button, and here I'm going to change the styling of this as well. So I'm going to say that the background color, I want it to be transparent. The text color, I want it to be white. I want it to have a border. I'm going to have 5 pixel radius to be in line with like the form fields. I want the top margin to be about a 15 pixels. The typography for it, I want to click on this. I want to say that I want it 18 and I want to transform it to uppercase. Now the cool thing about some of these settings that Elementor allows you is that you can change different styling for say something like a button in the hover. Making sure that I'm in the submit button, I click on the hover and here's the different options that I can choose to change the styling of this button. So yeah, in the background, I'm going to say that I want this to be white. I want the text color to be the orange, and I want to keep the border white. So when I hover over the button, you can see that whole effect that I'm doing there. And to go back into normal settings, I just click on normal and there's the normal settings there again. Now that I'm happy with this, I'm going to go over to the right hand side and I'm going to put in a couple of widgets here for the contact details. So to do that, I'm going to go into the 9.icon. I'm going to say icon, and here's the icon box widget that I'm going to be using. I click and drag this over here into the right side of this section, and I'm going to let go. So here's the icon box that I'm going to stylize for contact details. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this icon and I'm going to click on it and I'm going to change it to the map pin. The reason for that, this is going to be my address widget. So the title for this widget is going to be address. And then I'm going to put in the address in the description. So now that I have the details that I'm going to be working with, let's go over to style. Here, I'm going to say that I want the icon on the left hand side of this, and I want it in the middle of this widget. Then I go to the icon, I'm going to change the color to white. I'm going to keep it in the theme. I'm going to keep the spacing as is in the size for now. You can always go back on widgets and change things later. Then in the content, I'm going to make sure the text is white for everything. The typography for the heading, I want to make sure that this is the size that I want, so it's going to be 25. The typography for the actual address, I'm going to click on that. I'm going to make sure that this is a 16 because I like using 16. And then I'm going to make sure that the space is 0. So now that I have all the style that I want for this widget, now I can actually duplicate it all the way down and add all the other information. So like the email address and contact number. So to do that, I right click on this widget and I say duplicate. So now you can see that there's a second widget with all the different settings kept the same as the first one. So all I have to do is change the icon to match the content I'm going to be putting in. So in this one, I'm going to be putting the phone. So I type out phone. I find the phone icon I want to use, select, insert. Then I change the title and I say contact number. In the description, I add the contact number. And there we go. There's the second detail with exactly the same as the first one. Now I right click on this. I say duplicate. Then I'm going to change the icon again for this third one. And I'm going to say this is the envelope because this one is going to be the email address. I select the envelope icon I want to use. I insert. The title is going to be email address. And then in the description, I add the email address. So now that I'm happy with all the details that I want in this, I'm going to add a map widget now. Now I'm going to do that on top of the address widget. So to do that, I'm going to go into 9.icon. In the search part, I'm going to put map. And I like using this first widget over here that says Google Maps. I'm going to click on that, drag it across into the second section, and then make sure that it's above the address and then let go. Now here is the map widget loaded up exactly where I want it. To change the settings, then make sure that the widget is selected, and then on the left hand side you can see all the settings that you have available. I'm happy with the location over here, but you would obviously use this and put your proper address into that part over there. The zoom, I like to keep this at 16. As is a preference of mine, I just like things a little bit closer so that when a client comes to the website, they can immediately recognize the area and then they can navigate themselves, because you do have navigation within this widget here. So they can always zoom out themselves. The height I'm going to leave as is. You can actually manually select it. If you accidentally add any value that you don't want, you can simply select it and just delete it, and it'll go back to default. Now that I'm happy with everything here, I'm going to do the last thing that I always do with my own sections, and I'm going to make sure that everything is centered perfectly. So to do that, I'm going to hover over the 6 dot icon. I'm going to make sure that I'm in the layout, and vertically aligned I'm going to say middle, and now I'm just going to say update. The final touch that I'm going to be putting here is also putting motion effects in this section. For the gravity forms are selected, I go into advanced, just like a heading or text, and then I'm going to go into motion effects. I'm going to say I want this to zoom in. The map, I'm going to go to advanced, I'm going to say motion effects, I'm going to say fade in left, and then these details over here I'm just going to put in a normal fade in. Okay, so now that I'm happy with all this, I'm just going to make sure that I update it again, saving all my progress. And the final step I'm going to do in this design is I'm going to go and hover over this icon here that looks like a laptop and a cell phone. I'm going to click on that, and this little drop down appears on the top. I'm going to click on the cell phone view of this, and I'm going to make sure that this looks fine in my designs in the cell phone view. I'm going to scroll to the top, and I can change all the settings that I want to change in the cell phone view. Now for me, this space that I have selected in desktop is just too much for this mobile view. So I'm going to select it, and I'm going to drag it a little bit less. I'll put it in, say, 50. And then in the bottom, I'm going to do that as well. And these settings that I'm affecting are only going to affect it in mobile view. Now that I'm happy with that the title is just a little bit too big for this view. So I'm going to click on this. Then I'm going to head over to style and typography, because I want to change the size of the font here in mobile view. So now remember that this is just the settings in mobile view. I'm going to hover over the size, and I'm going to say maybe this is going to be about a 30. I'm happy with the text size, so I'm going to leave that. I'm going to scroll down to the next section. Here, I don't want the image on the bottom and the writing on top. I want it the other way around in mobile view. So to do that, in this middle section, I'm going to click on the 6 dot icon. I'm going to go over to advanced, responsive, and I'm going to say reverse columns in mobile. Now you can see once I've done that, the image is now on top because that column has been put first instead of last when it collapses naturally. Now that I'm happy with the section, I'm going to scroll down to the third one. In this third section, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to reverse the columns. So I don't have an inner column to change settings of. I only have the outer one. So I click on the 6 dot icon. I go to advanced, to responsive, because obviously responsive design, and I'm going to reverse it in mobile view. So now that the map and contact information is on the top, and then the contact form is in the bottom. Now that I'm happy with all of this, I can just click update. And now desktop and mobile have been catered for. The final thing that we can do is just look at our work. So to do that, we go over into the page previews, and we can just click on that and it'll open up a whole new tab. And here is our page that we have built, as you can see, working just the way that we had designed it. And that is the basics of how to use Elementor. Hope you liked this video and that you found it helpful in all those beginner steps of using Elementor. It's a very good website builder. It's not perfect, but it is one of the better ones. If you have any questions, or if you're stuck somehow, which I don't think you will be, but if you are, do send a comment down below and I'll see what I can do to help you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. That stuff really does help me grow my channel. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.